We go to Walt Disney World a lot, which means that we face both the best and the worst of vacationers. So, we've compiled a list of the worst kinds of things you can do in Disney to help you avoid becoming one of them and ensure you're one step ahead of everyone else in the parks. Up next. Welcome aboard. I'm Don B from Eat Sleep Disney. Now, during our travels to Disney, we generally find that our fellow Disney goers are just as excited to be there as we are. But then there are other guests who seems like their only goal is to actually ruin your vacation. And of course, we don't want you to be one of those people, and we want to make sure you avoid them at all costs. And we're going to start off with one annoying behavior that is really simple to fix. We've all been there. You're cruising down the Pirates of the Caribbean, and then bam, there's a flash from someone behind you taking a picture, and you can see, well, everything you're not supposed to see. What's even worse than flash photography on a dark ride, you might ask? Well, flash photography when it's clearly stated by a cast member at the beginning of the attraction that it is prohibited. Now, we get it. Sometimes you don't know that your flash is on until you're taking the picture, but it really does ruin the magic, even if it's an accident. Luckily, it's easy to avoid being that guy by ensuring that the flash on your phone or your camera is off before you snap the picture or take a video. Or even better yet, turn it off when you're on your way to the park so you don't have to think about it when the perfect photo moment comes up. Disney World is all about creating magical memories, but sometimes excitement can make us forget one important rule. Don't run in the parks. Sure, you're eager to get to Space Mountain, the Seven Dwarfs Mine Ride, or grab that perfect spot for the parade, but running the parks can cause more chaos than you think. First off, running is dangerous. With kids, strollers, and tired feet everywhere, it's way too easy to trip, or worse, crash into someone else. Plus, cast members work hard to keep everyone safe. When you run, you are ignoring their advice and creating unnecessary stress for them and the other guests. Remember, the magic isn't going anywhere. Walking briskly gets you where you need to be, and you'll still enjoy the experience without the risk. So let's keep it safe and magical for everyone. Walk, don't run, and you can still enjoy every moment at Disney World. If there's one thing that's almost guaranteed at Walt Disney World, it's that you'll be facing some crowds. Whether it's a congested area of the park or slow walkers that you're stuck behind, the key to getting through the crowd is to keep moving. But some people don't necessarily respect that. The sudden stopper can go from an efficient walk to a complete stop in the matter of seconds, and it takes everything in your power not to run into them if you're walking close behind. Then, of course, you have to figure out how to go around them if you want to continue moving forward. Now, Heidi and I travel just as a couple, but we understand navigating the parks with kids does take some practice. Whether you're pushing a stroller or have your little kids walking alongside with you, we get that your kids may not always want to follow the crowd or could easily get distracted by everything surrounding them. After all, they're in Walt Disney World, so it does happen. But it's still important to try to not be that person, as it can really impact the overall crowd flow and make others upset. And it is possible that you could get injured, as the crowds behind you may not be paying attention and could plow right into you. Along with crowds, the other thing you're guaranteed to encounter during your trip to Disney World are lines. And we're pretty sure no one enjoys waiting in line after line at Disney World, but of course it is part of the experience. But every once in a while, you stumble upon a family that doesn't think they need to abide by the rules. It's always the same. They say, "Excuse me, my family's up there." So you do the courteous thing and step aside and watch them go and keep on going and keep on going all the way up to the front. Now, we get that sometimes you do need to step out of line because one of your kids just realized they have to go to the bathroom, or let's be honest, your wife needs to go to the bathroom, and it just can't wait until after the ride or the attraction. However, many people abuse this and send their family ahead to get in line while they stop at the bathroom and then catch up, or full-on cut the line. Not only are these two things completely disrespectful to other guests in the park, but they're also prohibited and can get you kicked out and banned from Disney World. We're not kidding here. So get your bathroom breaks in before you hop in line, and don't try any tricks to cut the line. It's not worth losing the ability to vacation at the most magical place on earth. And of course, if waiting in line is like the worst thing in the world for you, you can always consider purchasing a Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, or at least Lightning Lane Single Pass for the most desired attractions like Star Wars Rise of the Resistance or Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. If you've been to the Disney parks multiple times, you've probably picked up on a few of the pre-show monologues and show scripts. And while we commend you for your ability to memorize everything word for word, Disney isn't the place to put on your performance. While this may be your 50th time riding the Haunted Mansion, it's likely the first time for someone you're standing right next to. Let them experience the attraction without you showing off. Of course, you can always recite the words in your head rather than out loud for everyone else to hear. While finding alcohol in Disney used to be reserved for only the resorts and sit-down restaurants, now you can grab a drink almost anywhere at any time of day. The only exception still remains Magic Kingdom. As the number of specialty drinks grows and drinking around the world at Epcot has gained ridiculous amounts of popularity, people can easily overindulge at Disney World. Unfortunately, it can be rather obvious when those around you do. The party animals are most often found in Epcot, often with a bridal party in tow, or some other matching t-shirts that lets you know they're there for the drinks. And let's be honest, I'm the first to admit that I love grabbing a beer at Germany, as well as grabbing drinks at other Disney parks, but keep in mind while you're enjoying your Disney trip, that this is a family vacation destination. If you're choosing to partake in the more adult side of Disney, pace yourself and ensure that you're eating and of course drinking plenty of water. And don't forget to be mindful of those around you. Now this next one is particularly frustrating for my wife because she's a little bit on the shorter side. But let me lay out the scene for you first. Picture this. You've made sure that you are ready for the next parade or fireworks show over an hour in advance and found the perfect spot. After some searching, you scooted into this little section to position yourself to watch. And then, when the show finally starts, that dad right in front of you hoists their kid up on their shoulders, turning your perfect spot into the worst. It's unfortunate, and it happens more than we'd like to admit. While putting your kids on your shoulders isn't against the rules, it's inconsiderate of those around you. Everyone paid a hefty price to be there, so blocking the view of those behind you isn't kind, even if it's so your kid can see. Instead of relying on dad's shoulders for a view, try to arrive early to secure a good viewing spot for your kids, or ask those around you if they don't mind having your children step in front of them when the show begins. If it won't block someone else's view, most people are typically willing to help out. We've also found out that having dad simply hold the child provides a high enough vantage point for them to see over the crowds. A trip to Disney World can be stressful. There's a lot you need to know before your trip and a lot that can go wrong during your trip. Then add in that you're probably a little sleep deprived and your feet ache from all that walking and that Florida heat, regardless of the situation. There's no excuse to ever become mean to cast members. Unfortunately, it's pretty common to see guests who are yelling or being rude to cast members. Even if you have a legitimate complaint, it's important to be respectful of cast members when you bring it to their attention. Oftentimes, you'll find that they're more than willing to help, and maybe even sprinkle in some extra pixie dust, if you're kind. And remember, they're human, not some animatronic from an attraction, and many of them love Disney just as much, if not more, than you do. So whether you're interacting with a cast member at an attraction, a restaurant, or one of the guest services cast members at one of the blue umbrellas throughout the theme parks, just keep your cool and be courteous. While we would like to think those who go to Disney World are there to have a good time, we inevitably run into someone who seems like all they can do is complain. Maybe they're not taking their complaints to guest services, but there's still those individuals that nitpick and have nothing positive to say about the experience. They may complain that the weather's too hot, the lines are too long, the portions at the restaurants are too small, which of course, in our opinion, is completely ridiculous. But regardless, These individuals will find anything and everything wrong with their trip to Disney World. It's annoying to have to stand in an hour line with someone who just won't let some things go. But if you're standing in line with them, at least you'll eventually get to escape. But having someone who doesn't want to be at Disney in your travel party, that will just completely ruin your vacation. And we're not only talking about adults here. We've seen plenty of little kids be big complainers at Walt Disney World. If you find yourself headed into Disney with a less than stellar attitude about it, consider keeping the comments to yourself and try to enjoy the time with your family. And if you really can't stand being there, tell your family that you'll meet them at a certain area of the park or hang back at the hotel for the day. You should enjoy time with your family, and complaining the entire time will only make everyone unhappy. If there's nothing else you can say about us at Eat Sleep Disney, you can say that we're honest and we are willing to admit when we're part of the problem. You see, there's a newer phenomenon that has emerged in Disney, where there are hordes of people looking to capture every second of their trip for content. Yes, these influencers and TikTokers will do anything to get the right clip. They'll take up a large space in Magic Kingdom to nail that dance. But trust us, we're not those people. They might stretch their arm over your shoulder to get the best angle of the parade, and they'll hold their phone in selfie mode for the entire length of a ride. Okay, maybe I'm guilty of doing that. But not only are these influencers or TikTokers being disrespectful of other Disney goers when they do this, they also miss out on the experience of Disney firsthand. Now, there are a lot of people who are in Disney capturing content without making a fuss. In fact, we like to think we're one of those people. So we're not saying that you need to lock your phone away and not take your action camera or any approved type of video camera or device into the parks, but it's just important to be mindful of others around you. Remember, most of the people around you are on a once-in-a-lifetime vacation, so you do want to avoid getting in the way of that. Besides those content creators who act like they're the only individuals in the parks, perhaps one of the most other annoying people that we can't stand are the ones who ruin the magic for those around them. While Disney is a place for family vacations, there's usually at least one person in a large group who would rather be vacationing, well, anywhere else. Instead of enjoying the trip for what it is, these people often try to express their distaste for Disney by yelling stupid things like, "That's not really Mickey," or pointing out things that don't look real. While yes, anyone over the age of 7 is probably suspicious of how Mickey can be everywhere at once, there are little ones around who just don't think he's real. They know he's real. Yelling these things entirely ruins the magic for everyone around you. So try to suspend your belief for a few days or save those comments for when you're back in your hotel room. A Disney trip is hard on the legs and feet, but by the third or fourth day, it definitely hits you, even if you are used to standing long periods of time back at home. It's a collective experience, yet some people take every possible chance to get off their feet, whether it's sitting on the floor in line, in a pre-show, or even sitting on the sidewalk waiting for that parade. While we can all understand why these people choose to sit, doing so can interrupt the flow of traffic and result in greater crowds and longer lines simply because sitting takes up more space. If you need a break, head to a restaurant or find a bench that's out of the way. There are also plenty of opportunities to see shows where seats are actually provided for you, and many of them are inside, so there's that glorious air conditioning. Just plan these into your days, so you do have a good mix of resting and walking to pace yourself. Hopefully you've picked up a couple tips and tricks from this list, but if there's one thing that you've picked out, is that most of the annoying part of going to Disney World has to do with navigating the crowds. It simply brings out the worst in people. And as you could imagine, getting through the crowds is particularly hard when you have to push a stroller or you're driving an ECV. While most people are mindful of the space they take up with these, it's not uncommon to run into someone who's not paying attention to those around them and then just goes. This is a recipe for disaster and often ends up in run over toes and bumped legs. We understand the impulse to forget the crowds and do what you need to do to get around, but running into people isn't the way to go. So keep your eyes up and treat the streets of Disney like the roads. Being mindful of the crowds and learning how to navigate Walt Disney World is helpful regardless of when you go. But there are certain times of year where there are fewer crowds, smaller lines, and get this, even cheaper prices. So to help ensure you stay one step ahead of everyone else, you need to check out our look at the best times to visit Walt Disney World right here on the channel. In that video, we break down the times you should go to Walt Disney World, which will enable you to ride all the rides, see all the shows, dine at the best restaurants, and hey, maybe even take one day just to relax at your resort. That way, your next Disney vacation is truly unforgettable.